안녕하십니까? To our ASEAN brothers and sisters, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So that's for Brunei, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Selamat petang also. For Cambodia, Cham Riap Swa. For Vietnam, Xin Chào. And for Thailand, Saudi Kap. My son is, by the way, married to a Thai, so I'm learning all of this from her. Okay, so this afternoon, I'd like to share with you what the Philippines is doing by way of an innovation system. And, I find that actually this is just a good excuse for me to come here to find my notes. Besides, the platform is squeaking a bit. So having learned from that, I think I'd like to be closer to you. All right, so let's begin. Philippine startup ecosystem, we have about 300 plus startups, about 30 plus co-working spaces, 20 plus venture capitalists, about 30 plus angel investors, and you will see all around them are, of course, government, which I represent. Academe is also there, all right? But you will see that it is not yet so well developed. I mean, those little circles that you have there, there's really a lot that we still have to go and develop in terms of really building up a robust ecosystem. Well, we have a pretty strong outsourcing industry. And if you don't know it, in the Philippines, our exports are only made of two categories, either electronics or non-electronics. If some countries have their exports as oil or non-oil, Philippines is electronics or non-electronics. So we feel strong about our industry and tech exports. The Philippines, as of now, is still one of the fastest growing economies in the world, actually. And our GDP growth has been consistently growing 6% or higher in the last 5 years. We have received, for a rather respectable period of time now, investment grade ratings, and our population is tech and media savvy. Philippines is known to be the world's capital for text messages. And not only that, these days it's also selfies and groofies, if you will. All right. We are proficient in English. Our literacy rate is 96.3%. We have a median age of 23.4, which gives us a real great demographic dividend. So, if our economy continues to grow at 6% or better in the next few years, and our median age is about 24 years old, we can see the Philippines really getting out of poverty by 2040. So I think that's an important thing that we should mention. We also have a almost 11 million strong, which gives us international networks and exposure. The Philippines is rather strong in gender equality. Cost of living, well, especially nowadays with our exchange rate depreciating, then the cost of living in the Philippines, you will say, is really value for money. HSBC has the Philippines saying, the HSBC is saying that the Philippines will be the top 20 economies by 2050. And I think we're all young here, so we will probably see it in our lifetime, yes? Okay, and of course, it's more fun in the Philippines, right? Okay, Philippine ecosystem industries to look out for. According to Startup Genome report in 2017, Manila is one of the top 20 cities of ecosystems to look out for when it comes to fintech, and the top 30 for AI. Now, who is the best reference that we have there? No other than him, the iconic Jack Ma. He's really my idol. You know, Alibaba sold more than $17.8 billion last year during 11/11. You know what 11/11 is? Aside from the fact that it's my birthday, it's November 11, and that's Singles Day. I mean, you can just imagine having online sales of more than $17.8 billion in one day. Actually, the first time that they did it, the system crashed, for the first 5 hours. But in 2017, that's how much they sold. So he's saying that, fintech services could be very, very good for the Philippines because, well, of course, Indonesia has more than 17. We only have 7,000. But nevertheless, banks are really going to find it difficult already to compete with fintech, actually now. For those of you who are familiar with the Philippines, we have sari-sari stores. These are mom and pop stores. They're now actually being used as remittance and payment, agents in the Philippines. Okay. The industries other than that, Philippine startups are basically in B2B, mainly in B2B. 58% of that's according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, their report of 2017. And the basis for startups starting their businesses are almost 40% their analysis of available market, 20% the availability of local talent, and 16% barriers or low barriers to entry. The Philippine startup scene actually made a very, very big pivot between 2015 and 2016, when in 2016, 35% of startups were actually founded. Okay? And by last year, 2017, mid-year, that's 19%, so we could assume probably that would be in the around 40% growth. About 40% growth in 2018. And the business outlook in the country over the next 12 months, compared to the last 12 months, 86% say that the business outlook in the country will be better for the next year compared to the previous year. 11% it will stay the same, and 3% say it will be worse. So the Philippines, more fun. We're optimistic. We're optimistic. What else do we have to watch out for in terms of major developments? There is a growth in the number of startup investors in the country to the tune of 26%. There is a growth in the number of incubators and mentors to the tune of 28%. There's improved collaboration, and this is where I think we have to emphasize that, between government and the private sector, improving by 17%. And then there's a growth in the number of innovation hubs in the country to the tune of 16%. And the growth in the number of planned programs, initiatives, and laws for startups that have grown by 12%. Okay, Philippine startups, very interesting. And especially with the audience that we have today, and in particular the ASEAN Korea Center, putting us all together here. 95% of startups in the Philippines are planning to enter new territories in the next 5 years, and guess what? They also include, among others, ASEAN countries, led by almost 60% Indonesia, right? Malaysia, 55% of them say that they want to go to Malaysia. 56%, of course, Philippines, 52% in Vietnam, and 33% in Myanmar. It's regrettable we don't have a representative from Myanmar at this time. Okay, these are some examples of Philippine startups. I will not mention them anymore one by one. The convenience of what the ASEAN Korea Center has done is that they're all in the hard copy anyway. So please, in your own free time, you may wish to refer to them. All right? What are the notable startup movers and shakers in the Philippines? Okay? Well, the first public-private partnership designed to develop, grow, and scale a competitive startup ecosystem in the Philippines was launched in 2016 by its founding partners. It just so happens that this guy over there is standing in front of you, so that's probably why I'm here. All right? And we partnered with the private sector, particularly, and we will know more about them, Idea Space Foundation, which is actually part of the MVP, Manny Pangilinan group of companies, SMART, okay? SMART Telecoms, and through the Export Marketing Bureau. You might wonder why. Why the Export Marketing Bureau? Because we have a Philippine Export Development Plan. And under the Philippine Export Development Plan, we have the basis to enhance the innovative capacity of our exporting sector. And that's actually my bureau's entry point into the innovation and startup scene. All right? Notable startup movers and shakers include AIM, Asian Institute of Management, Dado Banato Incubator. For those of you who do not know or who know the name, Dado Banato is one of the big names in Silicon Valley when it was growing. Okay, so we have a Filipino right there
that can actually help us make this happen. Of course, I already mentioned Idea Space, where we partnered to establish Kubo. Kubo, by the way, QBO, let me go back to that. Okay? If in other countries, startups are founded in garages, in the case of the Philippines, it's in nipa huts, H-U-T-S, right? Very humble living quarters, and we call that a Kubo. And Kubo made a play on the word Kubo, which is normally spelled with a K, K-U-B-O, and made it QBO or Kubo. Right, so let's go. There's, of course, more of an international hub, which is the Impact Hub. It is a global network of collaborative spaces, communities, and capacity building programs that inspire, connect, and enable impact. Launch Garage, which provides a venue for open collaboration, knowledge sharing, events, acceleration, and also a co-working space facility. It is also going to evolve from a tech innovation hub to a venture capital company. Notable startups and shakers in the Philippines also include Startup Village. It's a newbie incubator accelerator, really, and Spring.ph of the Philippine Software Industry Association. This is where a business support organization established and launched it in 2011 to help local software development industry create and commercialize at least 10 globally competitive, recognized software products in various categories. Upscale, and this is where my alma mater is, the University of the Philippines, so they made a play on upscale. It's actually UP scale, right? Houses smart conference facilities, business incubation spaces, and technology-equipped platforms, and provides access to subject matter experts, or SMEs, knowledge-based references, and relevant market validation. We also have Ciririo Labs, which is manned by a full-time multi-industry team of mentors trained in Silicon Valley. We have BrainSparks, a startup and innovation hub in the Philippines that does acceleration, incubation, and seed funding, and Exchange, an incubator for early-stage social enterprises in the Philippines. It invests in organizations, both for profit and nonprofit, and whose core mission is the creation of value for marginalized communities in the Philippines. Kickstart is also a venture capital firm. This one is a subsidiary of Globe Telecom, another telecom company backed by Ayala Corporation and Singtel, and of course, a global organization called Endeavor that mentors and accelerates high-impact entrepreneurs. There is also the company in Cebu. It's a growing international co-working space that started in Fukuoka in Japan, and the company Cebu is the third branch, the first one that was built outside of Japan. So the Philippines, and in particular, for some reason, the Japanese like Cebu. And I'm sure that my colleague here from Cebu, Assistant Regional Director Nanette Arbon will, in your networking, be able to tell you why the Japanese like Cebu so much, especially the Japanese office ladies, right? Okay, and then we also have A-Space. It's also a co-working space in Manila and Cebu that caters to innovators across the Philippines. Right. Here in government, my problem is this. And I guess for you startups, this is a problem, right? More often than not, we are bogged down with dysfunctional bureaucracies and hierarchies. And really, I'm speaking to you here more not like government, but more like somebody who'd really like to have some changes that happens in our government bureaucracies. Why? Because how can you expect startups to have, accountants, legal experts, market research experts, when, they don't have enough people? In fact, Peter Thiel said the startup is the largest group of people you can convince to build a different future. How many of you here are founders? And how many people do you have? How about you? 2. Oh, 32? How about you, sir? Are you from the government? Startups? How many? 12, see? So you can just imagine if government, and it's a good thing because one gentleman from the ASEAN, Mr. asked, is Uber and Grab legal in Indonesia? We had that kind of problem as well. Yeah, government penalized Uber a few million pesos for being good at what they're doing. All right, we'll just make a long story short, all right? Okay, Philippine government policies, we do have a Philippine development plan from which we can leverage, okay? This is to advance technology and innovation. We have the Philippine Export Development Plan, as I mentioned to you. My bureau's interest is particularly focused on companies and exporters that are born global, okay? And the more I do it, the more really I find that it is not that easy to find born global companies. And it's great to be associated with startups from the Philippines and the ASEAN region, and for me to learn, you know, what sort of industries, what sort of pain points startups are addressing for the global market. Then, of course, we have our Inclusive Innovation Industrial Strategy, or we lovingly call that the I3S. It is a policy of the DTI for competition, innovation, productivity relationship, and involves the creation of the proper environment and implementation of innovation-centered programs. Okay, the Startup Ecosystem Development Program. There's so many things that you see here, right? Well, I wish they were all already in place. But they're a whip. You know what a whip is? It's a work in progress. Okay. So, yes, we are doing this. Yes, we're trying to work on this. Yes, we are still working on this. Yes, we're still working in this. You know, and when I saw the presentation of Malaysia, and in fact even Indonesia, you know, I admire you guys. You already have something like this, an innovation economic zone that's really dedicated to startups and innovation-led companies. No? But the Philippines, it's really just a work in progress. And this is actually, what do you call this, validated, and I will talk about it later on, when we became a member of the Genome Startup. All right? So Slingshot, let's go to Slingshot. Slingshot is actually our brand name for our startup events. Slingshot, of course, the attribution is giant killers, you know. Small, crude, but able to slay giants, all right? So Slingshot events, we have them in Cebu. We had the big one actually last year, Slingshot ASEAN. For those of you who may have participated in Slingshot ASEAN, that was a real big thing that we had last year, and I wish we have that same kind of budget for this year. Oh, by the way, let me make that announcement. Save the date. October 3 is our Slingshot event, and it will be part of the Innovation Summit that we're having in the Philippines on that day, right? So the Philippines at the Global Startup Ecosystem Report 2018, from the Global Startup Ecosystem Report of Startup Genome, we launched it was launched in April. So the Philippines is now in the global map through its membership in GSER 2018. And we're actually just waiting for the report. Manila is done, but we're waiting for the report on Cebu and Davao. Okay? So GSER does it by city. GSER does it by city and not by country. I guess that makes sense. You know why? Because what I've noticed here, even here in Korea, I mean, you're looking at Gyeonggi province, but you're looking at Songnam city. So it's really local government. Local government has to really play an active role with regards to startup. Okay, we're able to at least send some of our startups to competitions, like for example, in May this year to Silicon Valley for World Cup 2018. We were able to send Philippine tech startups, Storm, QuickWire, who's of course here as well, Beam & Go, Ayana, and TechShake. Computex 2018, Philippine participants won 2 special awards and became one of the 8 finalists in the Innovex event at the same Computex 2018. We have an Innovation Summit Conference, an expo in Cebu. This was in June of 2018, and as I mentioned, we're going to have an Innovation Summit in Manila on October 3. Startup Island also in Cebu, and that's why, Nanette, can you please stand up? See, you see this picture of this lady here? She's right there. Okay, they call Cebu the Queen City of the South. Okay, and because they're, Cebu is a very, very, what you call this, very, very competitive. Being an island, basically an island province city, especially when they deal with what they call Imperial Manila. All right? Okay, as a startup nation, of course, we have a Department of Science and Technology. And by the way, I was surprised that we were merged during lunch with another event. I don't know if some of your countrymen were also present in that other event. But we had representatives from the Department of Science and Technology. And there is a partnership program with startups that need financial support for R&D and market valuation studies. So in that regard, the Philippines is also getting to be a startup nation in that space. Now we call this the Higher Educational Institute Readiness, or we call it HIRIT. Okay, HIRIT is a local, well, it's a Tagalog word. The more formal definition of HIRIT is that it means full force. Full force. But the slang definition of HIRIT is more like a request, a sort of unwanted request. Okay, so I guess with regards to the academe, it simply means that academic institutions are still wanting that kind of attention and support from government by getting them involved into the startup system. In terms of existing incentives for startups, unfortunately, unlike BKPM, we are still basing our incentives, on the usual investment incentives. So you will look, for example, here this one is for MSMEs. We call this a BAMBE law, BMBE, all right? We have the Board of Investments with more of the tax exemptions, employment of foreign nationals. But these are really more suited to large FDIs. We have the Philippine Economic Zone, whose main purpose is really to attract foreign investors for export-oriented companies. Then, of course, we have IT parks. Okay. Now, last year, finally, for some good way of navigation, we were able to have a first BOI registered digital startup that can enjoy a 4-year tax holiday, which was approved under the usual Philippine Investment Priorities Plan. And this is called, the company is called Taxumo. It is an online tax filing platform for freelancers, small business owners, and self-employed professionals in the Philippines. So for those of you Philippine startups, I hope you know Taxumo. Yes, that's great news. All right, for legislation, we have the Innovative Startup Act. It has not yet fully passed Congress. Okay, unfortunately, not yet. We have the Philippine Innovation Act, and we have the Free Public Internet Access Law, which is being implemented, but only in very, very limited areas. For those of you in telecoms, the Philippines, actually, we're still looking for the third player. I don't know if Korea might be interested in doing that. All right? Anyway, the Philippine startup ecosystem is still really in its nascent stage, but it's growing, as I mentioned, because of the opportunities in the strong local market. We're 105 million people with the median age of 23.4. All right? So half of our population is below 24, and half are above 24. Philippine startups are hungry for resources, exposure, opportunities to expand our global footprint. So what we say in the Philippines, we want to change the world with one startup at a time. We're not that ambitious. Okay? I wish that we could say that we already have a unicorn. But no, we're not yet there. All right? That said, I'd like to end this presentation and hope for your attention for another 3.5 minutes for a short audiovisual presentation. Thank you.
Partner with the Philippines. Backed by strong macroeconomic fundamentals, the country is the 10th fastest growing economy in the world and one of the fastest growing economies in Asia. With a multi-billion infrastructure program, state-of-the-art capabilities using leading-edge technology, artificial intelligence, and complemented by a highly skilled workforce. All these at competitive operational costs.
Filipinos are hardworking, passionate, flexible, adaptive, and quick thinker to deal with problems immediately.
Filipino workforce is vital, positive thinking and open mind. Marine transportation innovations such as port facility, road networks are essential so that economic growth will be able to become more rapid.
Philippines is located at the center of ASEAN countries. From the geopolitics view, we can cover many main cities of ASEAN countries.
The Filipinos have a great work ethic, and their command of English is exceptional. They can weather even challenges with resilience which is world-class.
We utilize high-tech machinery and robotics in our production right here in the Philippines. And Filipinos easily adapt to these innovations.
World-class Filipino talent is likewise being tapped as a highly viable investment sector for innovation and startups.
We stand out as far as animation is concerned. They are quite amazed at how our artists are good in their craft. The artists, their rates are also competitive. We are able to compete from a price standpoint.
The Philippines is a fertile ground for investments due to its rich biodiversity and abundant natural resources.
The Philippines is thriving, and there is a potential for it to continue growing. There's a perspective for more growth to happen. It's one of the fastest growing economies, not just in Asia, but in the world.
These companies are expanding their businesses here in the Philippines. Projected by HSBC to be the 16th largest economy in the world by 2050. Viable investment area, industrial peace, state-of-the-art technology, a skilled workforce, creative, innovative. Your gateway to the ASEAN region and to the world. Partner with the Philippines.
Thank you, Philippines.